Hey, welcome back to the BaseLINE podcast, everybody. I hope you guys enjoyed a great 4th of July weekend and were able to spend some time with friends and family and, of course, light off some fireworks. Now, one quick announcement before we start this episode. From the beginning of this podcast, I have been using royalty-free music to not only introduce each episode, but end each episode as well. But that ends today, as a good buddy of mine, Jackson Owendag, will now be taking the helm and creating music for me, creating music for this podcast from here on out. Jackson is a music producer in the Grand Rapids area, and with him and his partners at Hidden Harmony, they make some very great music. If you guys want to check out Hidden Harmony, link to their Instagram page will be in the description for this episode and every single episode from here on out. As always, guys, thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of the BaseLINE podcast. Why am I wearing purple? Well, you're about to find out. So sit back, relax, and enjoy episode 22 of the BaseLINE podcast titled Chasing Dreams with special guest Michael Brown. And welcome back, everybody, to the BaseLINE podcast. I'm your host, BenLine Newman. Now, guys, we have our first ever football special guest. This guy and I played football together in high school. He has finished up his collegiate career at Miami of Ohio and now just recently signed in free agency with the Minnesota Vikings. Please welcome my special guest, Mr. Michael Brown.
How you doing, man?
Good. How you been, buddy?
I'm good.
Good. Now, Mike, I'm so happy that you're finally on this podcast. I know we've been talking about it for a while.
Yeah.
Now, you didn't get drafted in this year's NFL draft, but, just recently, right after the draft, you did get picked up by the Minnesota Vikings. Tell me what that moment was like to get that call from the Vikings.
It was like a dream come true, honestly. Since I was little, I always wanted to play the NFL and, the draft. I didn't get drafted, but all I said was I just needed an opportunity. So to get the opportunity and to be around my friends and family, it just felt real good. So
Yeah, absolutely. Not too far away from Michigan either.
not that bad. The flight's only an hour, so it's
Right.
very doable.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, like I just mentioned, you and I did both play together for football in high school. Obviously, I was a better player, 'cause that's why you're still playing and I'm making a podcast. But talk about the hard work that goes into making it to the moment you're in right now.
A lot of hard work. But I'm used to it. A lot of early mornings, late nights. A lot of time spent alone. A lot of time spent working out with your team, and you just got to sacrifice a lot. I say that's the biggest thing is getting to this point was a lot of sacrifice, but I wouldn't want to do it any other way.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just saw a video right before you came in the studio of you and a good friend of yours, Antonio Brown, working out together in Grand Rapids. Talk about kind of the relationships you built along the way and how it's kind of helped you maintain that hard work.
For sure, I've definitely built a lot of relationships through football. That's how we met. Playing football together, but I'll say consistent friendships is what got me to this point. Like my friendship with Antonio has definitely pushed me to get here. Like I wouldn't be where I was without him. I still friends with Jalen Mayfield as well. Like those guys push me in every aspect of my life. So even though we're from a distance, but they make sure that I'm on my P's and Q's when it comes to football, school, and social life and stuff like that.
Mike, you just finished up training camp with the Vikings. Talk to me about what that experience was like.
It was definitely a good experience. It's a lot of learning, being around those guys that you see on TV. Kind of get that star shock a little bit, but just realizing that they're all normal guys. You ask them questions, they'll help you, and learning from the veterans and stuff like that. But it was definitely a good experience, and definitely excited to learn more about the NFL.
Obviously, Mike, now you are facing the best football players in the world. What would you say is the biggest thing you took away from this training camp?
The mental aspect of the game. The higher you get in the level of football, the smaller the gap is with talent, and you realize that the guys that play a long time, like those veterans that I mentioned, they're more smarter than others, rather than being more physically gifted than others. So just learning that mental aspect of the game of like being able to be prepared mentally rather than physical, because at that point everybody's athletic. So just finding your niche and getting advantages in any ways you can.
Yeah, absolutely. And going off of that, with your skill set as a defensive back, as a safety, in your opinion, what do you bring when it comes to being able to guard those wide receivers, and what are some things that you think you might need to work on in preparation for this season?
I bring a lot of versatility. ever since I've been playing football, I've been able to play a lot of different positions. So I can be down in the box, play high hole, be able to cover guys. So I think that's where I can be used. And also a big key on special teams. Like, I feel like I play all special teams and be a good contributor in that aspect. And I feel like just when it comes to what I have to work on is just basically just soaking in all I can. Like, the NFL game is totally different than college, so terminology is different, the speed's different. So I'm just going to be a sponge and just soak it all in, improve in every area that I can.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, we mentioned it a little bit before, but before your time with the Vikings, before Miami of Ohio, you played at Catholic Central High School, and you made a massive impact. I mean, helping the Cougars win their first state championship in 6 years, and you and that team really kind of jump-started this current Catholic Central's run where, 4 championships in the last 5 years. How do you think playing for Catholic Central really helped prepare you to play at the next level?
Like I said earlier, I don't think I would be where I am if it wasn't for Catholic Central. That whole program, that school really molded me to who I am. I can't thank Todd Coaster enough. That's my guy. He pushed me like no other coach has ever pushed me to this day. And even building that connection on a personal level, just making me a better person and allowing me and giving me that trust to be an impact on that football team, I feel like. I love Catholic Central to death, so I wouldn't be here without that school.
Yeah, absolutely. And, going off of that, in that championship game, you did score the winning touchdown. Talk about that moment, playing at Ford Field and just being able to bring home that state championship.
It felt good. We knew that we was always a good football team, but we just couldn't get over that hump, and we all felt that pressure. So to finally win that state championship my senior year, to end like that, was like a dream come true.
Absolutely. And I remember it because first ever football stadium Catholic Central ever had, that was that year, and there's just something about that season that just felt so special.
Yeah, I feel like it was just meant to be. Like, it was meant to happen. First year, new stadium. Our school never had a stadium, especially with the tradition that we have, and being able to win that year just meant a lot.
Coming out of high school, why did you choose Miami of Ohio over other potential schools that were recruiting you?
Well, I only had one scholarship offer, so that was my only option, to be honest. So it was either there or nowhere else. Yeah,
okay. And you certainly did make an impact for the Red Hawks. Your junior season especially, you had 3 interceptions, 2 of which, you led the nation in interceptions returning for touchdowns, including one that was 79 yards. Talk about this season as a whole and what you think made it so special.
That 2019 season was one to remember as well. We won the MAC championship that year, and that year we had a very selfless team. Like, everybody just wanted to contribute. Like, every game, it was a different guy who had that game making plays. So I just try to contribute where I can, and I was able to make a couple interceptions that really helped our team win a couple games that year. So, but that was definitely a fun year. I think it definitely helped me to be where I am today. And looking back at it, it was a nice run.
Yeah. Absolutely. Along with these amazing seasons, you and the Red Hawks were also able to play in 2 bowl games. Talk about the different atmosphere and what makes playing in a bowl game so different from the regular season.
It's kind of like the difference for me was it's like kind of like a celebration. It's like you're getting rewarded. So the practices are not as intense as it would be in the season because the coaches are just knowing like it's more for fun and enjoying yourself rather than like you want to win but you also want to enjoy yourself. So it's kind of like the trip is like more of a vacation / practice. Like, you would do more activities with your team rather than practicing and drilling all the plays in. So it was definitely fun. It's an experience that I hope everybody gets to endure during their college playing days. But I definitely enjoyed those 2 bowl games. I wish I could have played them more, but I'll take my 2 experiences.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, a lot of what goes into a team's preparation going to game day is, film on the other team. How would you and the team go about kind of changing up that game plan kind of week by week depending on who you were playing?
Every week brings new challenges. Like, you might have a different player in a different position that's better on each team. Every team has their own schemes and the way they try to attack you. And, as a defense, you might have weaknesses as well. And you might have a bad game the last week at giving up the run, so the next team might not run the ball, but they might try to attack you with the run game. So just knowing the ins and outs of football and what your strengths and weaknesses are and going against your opponent, knowing their strengths and weaknesses. Football is a very changing game, and it's a lot of factors that goes into it. But just being able to stay consistent and knowing that every week is a new challenge, and just being able to know the game plan and making sure everybody on defense knows that exact game plan, and communication is key, and that's how you go about the season of football.
Now, Mike, I'll ask this question again, but now going towards Miami of Ohio, how did playing for the Red Hawks really prepare you again to play at the next level?
I'll say the coaching staff, like I said, being versatile, they kind of forced me to do that as well. Like I was always used to it, but I play a lot of different positions. I was asked to do a lot, from playing all 3 safety positions to playing 2 corners and all the special teams. And Coach Martin really pushed me to know what I was doing at every position. So if I knew what I was doing, I had to know what the corner was doing versus what the linebackers was doing. And as a game plan, like my position coach, Coach Breakin, he really helped me excel in like being able to understand the game of football, not just understanding what I have to do, but understanding what the offense is trying to do and how that can help me, because it's all about what you know. Like your athletic ability only can take you so far in the game of football. Like I said, as the higher you get in the level, the athletic gap closes. So you have to find other niches to elevate your game. And I feel like being at Miami really made me take that next step of realizing that the game is more mental than physical. Like the physical aspect of the game is gonna come. Like you have to improve, but if you want to take that next step and be from good to great, you have to expand on your knowledge of the game of football.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you just mentioned it. I mean, football is not only a game of physicality; it's also a big game mentally. You know, you have to, like you said, you have to know exactly what your teammates are doing to make sure that defense runs smoothly and that there's no open gaps or things like that when you're facing an offense.
Yeah.
Now, Mike, obviously, Grand Rapids is your home. Michigan is your home state. Whether that be playing in Ohio or playing in Minnesota, what is it like being able to not only represent Michigan as a whole, but the city of Grand Rapids every time you step on that field?
That's definitely been a dream of mine. Like I always wanted to be able to represent my city. I love Grand Rapids. I've been here forever. I am ready to leave to explore more, but Grand Rapids is always in my heart. Everybody who knows me knows I rep Grand Rapids probably too much, but you know, home is home, and that's where my heart is. So I'll definitely always try to make Grand Rapids proud.
616 for life.
Yeah.
Now, another person that, you know, is from West Michigan that is playing for the Minnesota Vikings, Kirk Cousins. I mean, obviously a great quarterback in this league. Were you able to talk to him at all during training camp?
I didn't introduce myself, but I walked past him in the weight room and in the locker room and said what's up to him. Yeah, but I haven't firmly introduced myself, but I'm going to do that soon.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, in your opinion, what is it going to be like once you introduce yourself to be able to have that West Michigan connection with somebody on that team?
It's always good to see or hear like a familiar area in a new space. So just to know that you have a guy who lived not too far from you and to be as great as he is in the NFL, just to kind of know it's possible, you know, say he's from West Michigan and he reached that aspect of football. So it's definitely possible, you know, kid can dream. So, and it's right in front of you every day. So it's kind of like motivation.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Now, you know, as someone who's never played defense back or safety, what would you say is the hardest part of your position?
For me, it's really like safety has to be very versatile, and it kind of like stresses you out even if you are versatile, because you're somewhat a safety, a corner, a linebacker. Sometimes you got to be a defensive end and set the edge. You have to be a coach of the defense, and you can't have no hesitation. Like you can't second guess a call because you have to be the one who knows everything. So that's probably one of the challenges of safety, but it's also the nature of the game. You got to embrace it. So that's either you're going to be good or not be good. So you got to just enjoy the process.
Definitely. And, you know, while you're in the game, what goes through your mind? I mean, how do you go about reading the wide receiver to make sure that, you know, they don't get the opportunity to get that pass?
A lot goes into that too. Down the distance, formation, splits, who's at what position, and knowing the situation of the game is at the end of quarter and what defenses you're in, and knowing the weaknesses of your defense and knowing the strengths of the offenses. So a lot of that goes in when you're, you know what I'm saying, but it happens in seconds. You get the call and you got to kind of put everything together quick. So you got to make quick decisions in football. Sometimes you might make a mistake, but you got to make it fast and, you know, live with what you decide to do.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's going to be really tough having to guard Justin Jefferson in practice.
Yeah, I haven't yet, but I'm looking forward to it.
Now, You mentioned it a little bit earlier, but another person that you've really stuck with since high school is Jalen Mayfield, who just finished up his rookie season for the Atlanta Falcons as an offensive lineman. What is it like to be able to share this with him, you two finally making your dream of playing in the NFL?
It's been good. Like, he's younger than me, so he graduated a year younger than me, but he declared before me, so it's kind of been weird. Like, I ask him questions that I might not know, like, okay, how does this go, and how does this go, and he kind of helps me with that. So we talk on the phone. If I got any questions, I definitely ask him, and he lets me know, like, how his experiences were and versus how mine was, and, like, what I should look for in ways that can help me. So that connection, it's good to know I have a best friend that just went through exactly what I'm going through now. It's a little different when he was a high draft pick, but for the most part, I mean, football is football, and it's about how you take it. So definitely good to have a close friend that I could be able to ask for advice and not be a burden, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and obviously no one gives better advice than Coach Mayfield as well.
Yeah, Coach Mayfield.
Come on, big fella.
Big B. Run your feet.
Been looming. Now, like we mentioned, Mike, I mean, you just wrapped up training camp with the Vikings, so what's next?
Now we get a little 6-week break, and then when we go back, we get ready for preseason. So just enjoying my time home around family, working out, studying the playbook, and just doing what I do to get better until that time comes.
Yeah. And what are you most excited for this upcoming season?
I'm excited to prove myself. I've always been that guy that was underlooked, out of high school, no offers, and didn't get drafted out of college. But I feel like I got a lot to give to the game of football, and I'm excited to be able to show what I can do at the highest level there is. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, finally, Mike, in your career, what would you say is your ultimate goal?
Ultimate goal? I want to be the best safety to play football, and I want to be able to, provide for my family and not be worried about it affecting me. That's ultimately my goal. Just being able to be that guy that, when it comes emotionally, socially, financially, just being able to help those who help me along. Because you don't get to this level being alone. Like, within all the coaches I had, all the friends I had, the family, the relationships I built over the year. I just want to be able to give back to as many people as I can and just affect as many lives as possible.
Absolutely. Well, Mike, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it. And
thank you for having me on.
Super excited to see where your career takes you, buddy.
Appreciate you.
But that's going to wrap it up for us today, guys. Thank you so much for watching this episode of the BaseLINE podcast. Thank you so much to my good buddy Mike Brown for coming on and talking about his football career. I am so excited to see where he can go with the Minnesota Vikings. As always, guys, if you enjoyed this episode, please like, please subscribe, and please follow us on Spotify, Instagram, and YouTube for more content to come. With all that being said, guys, thank you again so much for tuning in to the BaseLINE podcast. I'm your host, Ben Newman, and we'll catch you guys next time.